What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Dispatches from the Front, the Cohen Group series where we dive into the nitty-gritty, the scenarios that are happening. We define some terms, and we give you all the information you need to be a strong buyer or seller in this market.
Exactly. What's happening today?
So today, we're talking about earnest money. What is earnest money? When is it used? How is it used? Tell us.
Sweet. So earnest money is the first amount of money that will come out of the buyer's pocket. It shows a little skin in the game, so to speak, that you're serious about the purchase and that you're putting some of your own money on the line to ensure that it gets to the closing finish line. It doesn't always happen, of course. There are several points where you could terminate the contract and still keep that money, but it's your first show to the seller that you're serious and you do want to complete the thing. Usually it comes out within 2 to 3 days. That was actually changed this year on contracts. Used to be default 2 business days you had to turn it in once you went mutual or pending on a contract. Now it's a variable amount. People are still rolling with 2 to 3 days as being kind of a quick in, but you technically could fill in any number you like on there. Just be reasonable about it. So that was a change this year to contracts. But usually around 1% of the purchase price is a standard earnest money amount. You can be higher if you wish to and show a little more aggression, a little more, interest. But that's something your agent will have to coach you through.
And there's honestly kind of a difference in perception from agent to agent, seller to seller. So some agents or sellers put a lot more emphasis on a higher earnest money, even with contingencies involved. So an inspection, financing contingency, appraisal contingency, etc. And in those scenarios, I don't want to say it's not really relevant because it is. It's out of your pocket and it's in escrow. But if you stay within your contingency timelines as a buyer, it's just out of your bank account. That's all it is. It's not going away unless you go outside of those timelines. So that's just a quick kind of split in the road. Some people ask for more earnest money, others will not. And so I wanted to talk about a quick case study. It's something that we've experienced in the recent past. And we actually had a buyer come to one of our listings. We actually had many offers on this listing. And we selected this particular offer because not only do they have strong earnest money, significant earnest money, more than 1%, but then they also waived their financing, which we don't typically recommend because it completely pulls all the stops out. You've got nothing. So if there's no inspection, no financing, no nothing, you're just saying, if I decide to walk away, I'm walking away from that money. And so in this scenario, we thought that there was enough on the line to keep the buyer involved no matter what. So typically, with an additional down addenda, as we've talked about in the past, where the buyer is committing to bring a certain amount of money in the event of a low appraisal, this scenario basically pulls all the stops out, the most risk to the buyer, least risk to the seller. But the key piece is that it doesn't mean that the buyer can't walk away. The buyer is just saying, well, if I walk away, there goes 5, 10, 15, whatever that committed amount is. So it was a really cool learning lesson because we expect with that type of leverage that nobody in their right mind is going to walk away. Well, right mind, lots of money, deep pockets, whatever it is, people can still walk away.
True.
So it's kind of an interesting topic around earnest money. Wouldn't you agree?
Exactly. It just depends on, what your financial picture looks like. Are you an investor? Are you going to live there as your primary residence? How committed are you to the home? Most buyers, if they're non-investors, are fully committed to the home. They got that elation when they walked in the door. My family's going to live here. I love this house. There's a huge emotional tie there. So the earnest money is a tie as well, but the heavier tie is the emotion, right? Like, I can't lose this. It's the one. But for investors and other people, or people that are a little less on the emotion side, maybe they don't really care about the house in that committed way. And so the earnest money or loss of is worth the risk if they just decide, this isn't one.
So at the end of the day, I think we say it doesn't matter or it does matter. And at the end, it really comes down to the specific scenario. As we say in all of these dispatches from the front, the weekly market updates, it all depends, right? So to assume that it's one way or the other is wrong. To ask the questions to find out what's most important to the seller. And it might be a scenario where you just have to appease a seller and say, sure, I'll put more earnest money down, even though it's just sitting in escrow. We're totally fine with that. And so I think asking the questions, or as a broker or as your representative, making sure that you're asking the right questions on what's most important to the seller. And if it's earnest money and it doesn't really hurt you and you have contingencies, well, it's not that big of a deal. Do it. could be a winning point, right? But not a big hit to you. So anything else on earnest money?
No, I think that's a wrap.
I think that's the most we've ever talked about earnest money. So thanks for joining us today on Dispatches from the Front. This is officially a world record, longest time talking about earnest money. Thanks for joining us for our world record.
Next week. See you later.
See ya.